one of the things that is a challenge for me with this type of talk is how to bring it home.
The way I would do it is I like to tell a story, and it'd be like a little narrative or a little vignette that contains like the powerful insight that like dominates the entire speech. This is a call with Melanie Deziel. Mel is an author and keynote speaker in the marketing world and a dear friend of mine, and she's got a big talk coming up about how companies can create cultures conducive to creativity. Plus 10 points for nailing the alliteration. All right. So, as a professional speaker, Melanie already has a strong initial flow to her talk, which you're going to hear in rough fashion in a second. But we needed to find a way to make her ideas come to life. And so we're hunting for a few things today. What are those indelible images? The things that are metaphorical or story-driven that just stick with you and cause an idea to click in your head? And how do you end this speech of hers? Because she has the flow, how do you stick the landing? I'm Jay Acunzo. I help my clients craft clearer messaging and stronger speeches so you can build your business on the impact of your ideas, not the volume of your marketing. Don't market more, matter more. When you matter more, you need to hustle for attention less. So in this call, we workshop a couple key moments and also a few different ways to end. So you do it, I'll withhold interruption and write down notes, which I'll give you after.
Essentially, I want to start with something along the lines of like, I want the obvious yes from the audience. So I'm going to do the show of hands if you'd like your ideas to be more innovative. Show of hands if, you have a directive to be more innovative. You're trying to disrupt your industry. You feel like you don't have, whatever. Basically, I'm just trying to get the immediate buy-in of like, yes, we all want this. And then I want to find a way to demonstrate that, like, have you done anything beyond that, right? And I want to do it in a way that doesn't make them feel ashamed, but sort of like a, yes, we all want this, and we haven't taken the steps. So like, let's talk about that. So few organizations are willing to do what needs to be done to create the culture where creativity and innovation thrives. And the reason why is because it requires going counter to a lot of conventional business advice. The primary condition for creativity is psychological safety. People need to be comfortable being vulnerable. They need to be allowed to be wrong, and they need to be allowed to think big, right? And this requires a whole bunch of things that go counter to common business advice. Like, in most business cultures, you're penalized for making mistakes. That could be that you're not going to get the promotion, you're taken off the project, you're demoted, whatever. There's a quick culture of blame because of that penalization for mistakes. Nobody wants to be the one to be the fall guy. So, so-and-so didn't do their part. This was their idea. There's a culture of blame. There also tends to be a mockery of big ideas. If you come in and suggest something that's not been done before, it's, well, we've always done it that way, or we don't have the budget, or we don't have the whatever, right? There's always an excuse. This is where the rant comes in. This is a bit from an old talk that I do where I essentially say, like, even if you do manage to use all those big fancy words and those claims to attract creative talent, it doesn't last long. And I call it the 3-month slump. Usually I'll just flash behind me like day 1, week 2, week 3, and I just have a tiny little vignette of like the creative at each of those stages. We're going to innovate. This is amazing. Week 3 is like, all right, well, they didn't like that idea, but like, I'm still getting the hang of it. Like, we're going to, things are going to happen. Week 4 is like, okay, it's been a month and I haven't gotten any of my ideas out yet, which means something's wrong with me and I need to work harder because we are an innovative organization, right? There's also the famous quote from Michelangelo where he says, I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set it free. The idea that you have to start with something before you start to cut away.
Yeah, it's always easier, isn't it, to come back down
Yes.
to reality than to take something super grounded in application and current constraints
Right.
and fears and like punch it up or make it better. But the corporate world is absolutely stuck doing the
Exactly,
latter
right.
way too
Instead
much.
of getting the big piece of marble, they're like gathering up crumbs off the floor. And I don't know, I haven't thought this. They're like getting the crumbs of previous projects and trying to like glue them together.
Oh
Yeah.
no, that's genius. Oh Mel, that's your visual. Like that's a
Yeah.
potential thing here where like, what's your version of I like to joke that a lot of people who are creating like speeches and messaging and shows, like whatever thought leadership project you're creating, they're like wondering why people don't care and share and they're not growing or not driving revenue. And I'm like, well, in a nice way, I have to be like, because it's not good enough or strong enough to do the work you hope it is. And so now you're over marketing it by looking for like an efficient way to create 1 million clips from your show, as an example. And you're trying to duct tape together scrap parts and yeet it into the sky. You know what flies a lot better? A well-built plane. So what I think your visual is, Michelangelo started with this block of granite. Here it is. And then they whittled it down to this beautiful David. Here's what marketers do. And you show like a bunch of pieces of granite and you're like, that's what we started with. And then we all decided that ain't it. And we got to punch it up. What do? We duct tape like a cardboard piece here. And we tried to like rope a cat over here. And then we put like half a ham sandwich right here and like some other rock over here. Like really play that up. Cause I think that's the most important paradigm shift you've given me so far. And you are so close to it that I think you rushed past it, which is you have to start bigger because inevitably you're going to be reduced to something more realistic and small, both because you have to make it real, but also because of the current culture you have. If you're not starting with divergent thinking, then you never will reach it. And marketers assume today that somehow you can, where you can like get people to buy into bigger ideas over time or whatever. I'm butchering the point, but I want to hear that as a huge paradigm shift for you, maybe backed up by a signature visual or
There's
something.
something with the tree thing too, which is like, you know, you let a tree grow and then you can trim it really well. But what happens if you snip it when it's small is it stays small. It's a bonsai, right? A tiny little thing that you trim without letting it grow, it stays
I
small.
want to address some more of my notes where you're like, the rant thing
We're gonna innovate. This is amazing. I'm still getting the hang of it. Something's wrong with me and I need to work harder.
is so good, but it could tip in a generic direction if you just describe like, here's the 3-month slump where you get more and more disillusioned. So like day one, you're like, I'm excited to do creative work. We're going to innovate. We're going to disrupt. I'm going to have a paycheck. This is going to be amazing. Instead of saying that, I found myself wanting you to give an actual example. Like, let me just go through. This is the 3-month slump of Sam. Like, maybe you can relate. And Sam is this kind of title, and Sam is doing this kind of initiative. And like, give me the real examples because I think it'll actually be more relevant to people and they'll fill in their details more readily if you give me more specifics. I know that's counterintuitive, but don't give me placeholders. Meet Mary marketer, and this is what Mary is going through. Mary is up against this is the task and super excited day one, and but make it specific to a project. Give me the real
I love that
details.
idea. It is purposely vague in the notes because I usually try to customize it to the audience, right? Because depending in this
Yeah, great. Like B2B marketer
exactly,
for the
yeah. So
next
in this
talk.
case, it's pretty general, but I think giving like a specific, like we're working on a campaign, or you just got hired at an agency, or you know you got this type of
Yeah.
industry, you know, marketing or something would help make it specific. And one of the things that is a challenge for me with this type of talk, again, because I'm not as used to playing in like the big idea space, more in the tactical space for my talks at this event specifically, is how to bring it home. But I'm very used to having clear deliverable, like you know, now take this thing that you have that we made right now and go back and use it. Um, and so part of me feels like is do those 3 things, those 3 ideas, like, is that enough to be a rallying cry, or do I have to kind of, like, really rewind and go big? I don't know, I'm trying to think of, like, how to bring it all home at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think the endings are ultimately you putting a hand on the shoulder of the audience metaphorically. Please only metaphorically. I don't want any comments and be like, so I did what Jay said, and I put my hand on the shoulder of someone in the front row, and now I'm no longer welcome back at that event. This is a metaphorical thing here, people. So it's like putting your hand on the shoulder of the audience at the very end to be like, hey, we like remember this, like that's ultimately what you're doing. There's this straight ahead way, which is like, so, this is not what you would say verbatim, but you're like, so in the end,
Yeah.
in conclusion, because I wrote this with crap GPT, in conclusion, we want this goal and we're coming at it this way. And there's all kinds of problems with that. There's this one, that one, and the other one. If we're going to make this switch, we have to remember what creativity even is. It's not this, it's that. So, therefore, if that's what it is, then the problem is this. Remember this part of the method, remember that part of the method, remember that part of the method. And if you do nothing else, or in the end, quotable, shareable line. Boom, done. The way I would do it is I like to tell a story. And it'd be like a little narrative or a little vignette that contains like the powerful insight that like dominates the entire speech so that I like deliver the most important lesson of it all, like the macro level insight through the stickiest vehicle of it all, which is a story. Or like, I mean, like this is similar to the closer story. Instead of a narrative at the end, it's callback at the end. So it's a more performative versus like summarizing way to end. Bring back the person from the rant, or I I just helped workshop a TED Talk with my friend Simo Stolzoff. So like he's making this case, and the framing device or callback is he starts by asking the audience, "What do you do?" or by talking about that question in our culture. And at the end, he has the option anyway of the callback to be like, "So I'll ask you all again. What do you do?" Or actually, given what we just learned today, let me ask a better question. "Hey, I'm Simo. What do you like to do?"
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a nice, ooh, delicious callback,
Yeah.
rounded edge, period at the end of the sentence.
This was so awesome. Thank you for the letting me learn from you.
No problem. Thank you for being the convergent thinker to my too prone to being divergent
Thank you for
tendencies.
being the divergent thinker that allows my convergent thinking to hone the ideas.